Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is Nephilim VA bringing you the first chapter of After the Fall, written by Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. Now I know what you are thinking. I've already listened to the first chapter of this fic. What gives? Fear not, my sunflowers. The easy explanation is that Alex has updated the fanfiction and asked me to re-record. And, of course, I was more than happy to do so. With that being said, After the Fall is going to be my focus until I have updated all the chapters. Then it will be back to business as usual with Inheritance and Blessed with a Hero's Heart. I hope you can all understand. With that long intro out of the way, this fanfiction is for mature audiences with a trigger warning for attempted suicide and drug use. If that isn't your style, then I recommend Humans Make Surprisingly Good Pillows, written by DogBlue9 on AO3. It can be found on my channel. Now it's time to begin again. Into a world where UA is a university, and you enter at the age of 18. But there are still 3 years of school where canon divergence is the name of the game. But first, the chapter summary is as followed. What if Deku had a quirk that stopped him from dying and Bakugo wasn't captured by the sludge villain the day All Might and Izuku met? I'm so fucking sorry. Katsuki's voice was muffled from the wet fabric on Izuku's chest. Don't you ever do something that fucking stupid again. Katsuki pulled back and looked into Izuku's eyes. A swan dive from 5 stories was definitely enough to kill him. He had made sure of it. It had killed him, right? So why was he alive now? Izuku, I never wanted you to actually fucking kill yourself. I thought you fucking knew that. I knew I should have apologized as soon as I said it, but holy fucking shit, Izuku. I didn't think you were actually going to do it. His voice was so quiet. Something so rare for the loud, angry blonde sitting in front of Izuku. Izuku blinked and rubbed at his own eyes, studying Katsuki. He had never, in his entire life, seen Katsuki so upset. The tears still hadn't stopped. His emotion was so raw and unrestrained. There was snot coming out of his nose, and spit clinging to his lips as he separated them to speak. His bloodshot eyes were met by trembling hands that attempted to wipe away the tears that refused to stop coming. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 1. The Genesis. As Izuku hit the ground, the world went silent. The sound of screams cut off abruptly. The chirping birds and barking dogs disappeared as the world went black. There was no one to tell him that he was useless anymore. There was nobody who could tell him that he could never be a hero. Nobody could tell him anything ever again. Death was peaceful, quiet, for a moment, until all the sounds rushed back in, and the world was, once again, far too loud for Izuku's liking. Izuku felt shaking hands holding him so tightly that he could have mistaken it for the entire world crushing him. The sound of desperate screaming threatened to damage his ears as the mass of blonde hair obstructed his vision. Sobs of, "I'm so sorry," from the desperate voice were clogging Izuku's mind and pushing out all other noise around him. The voice was so loud, so angry, so familiar. Izuku sucked in a sharp breath and attempted to regain his senses. He was supposed to be dead. What the hell happened? How did he... But his thoughts were cut off by the angry boy who had been screaming in his ear a moment before, moving to hold his head in both of his hands. "What the fuck, Izuku?" Katsuki screamed at him, tears pouring out of bloodshot eyes. His face was red with anger and confusion. He pulled one hand away from Izuku's head. It was covered in blood. "Why the fuck would you do that, you fucking idiot?" Katsuki buried his face into Izuku's shirt as he used his bloodied hand to pull him closer. Tears and snot soaking the front of his shirt as Izuku sat there confused. Why was he not dead? "I'm so fucking sorry." Katsuki's voice was muffled from the wet fabric on Izuku's chest. "Don't you ever do something that fucking stupid again." Katsuki pulled back and looked into Izuku's eyes. A swan dive from 5 stories was definitely enough to kill him. He had made sure of it. It had killed him, right? So why was he alive now? "Izuku, I never wanted you to actually fucking kill yourself. I thought you fucking knew that. I knew I should have apologized as soon as I said it, but holy fucking shit, Izuku. I didn't think you were actually going to do it." His voice was so quiet. Something so rare for the loud, angry blonde sitting in front of Izuku. Izuku blinked and rubbed at his own eyes, studying Katsuki. He had never, in his entire life, seen Katsuki so upset. The tears still hadn't stopped. His emotion was so raw and unrestrained. There was snot coming out of his nose, and spit clinging to his lips as he separated them to speak. His bloodshot eyes were met by trembling hands that attempted to wipe away the tears that refused to stop coming. "I didn't jump because of you." That was true. Izuku Midoriya didn't jump because his childhood best friend had told him to. No matter how much Katsuki had bullied Izuku, it had never hit him that bad to make him want to actually kill himself. Katsuki had simply said what Izuku had been thinking for about a year. "Well, why the fuck would you do something like that, you fucking idiot?" Katsuki was yelling again, still clutching Izuku's shirt. It was such a familiar position for the two of them. Yet this moment was so different from all of the others. There was a thick layer of vulnerability that had never been there before. "How am I alive?" Izuku asked him quietly. "I'm supposed to be dead." He took a deep breath in. "I did die. I was dead, I know it." Izuku was searching for something in Katsuki's eyes. "Did you bring me back?" A small choked "No," was all Katsuki said before the anger that was typically housed in his eyes returned, and slowly built to a level Izuku had never seen before. "I'm not gonna ask you again. Why the fuck did you jump?" A sadness like Katsuki had never seen before had found a home in Izuku's expression. Izuku shrugged as he shifted his eyes away from Katsuki, looking at the people gathered around him at a distance. Katsuki grabbed Izuku's jaw and forced him to look him in the eyes. "Who?" he demanded. The red colour of his eyes looked a lot more like fire at that moment. "The fuck?" Katsuki swallowed, forcing his tears not to fall. "Did this to you?" Izuku let out a sigh. He didn't even know if Katsuki would believe him. He began, grabbing Katsuki's wrist to gently pull his hand away from his jaw. "I met All Might." Katsuki just looked at him, waiting for the rest of the story. Izuku took a breath, preparing himself for the painful memory. "Last week. It was the same day you, told me to jump. He told me I could never be a hero without a quirk, and then he left me on the roof of a building." Izuku let out a small, humorless laugh. "I almost jumped right after he left, but I don't know." He shifted, studying the blood on his shirt. He reached for the back of his head and his fingers came back sticky with blood, but Izuku hadn't been able to feel a wound. "You..." Katsuki's mouth momentarily hung open in his shock. "You met All Might?" he questioned. Rage and jealousy were battling for dominance in his voice. Izuku nodded, silently. "And he left you on a roof after crushing your dreams?" Katsuki's hands, which were now lost of Izuku's touch, set off multiple tiny explosions. Izuku could tell that it wasn't even a conscious decision that had been made, but simply a physical reaction of the rage he was obviously feeling. "I mean, yeah?" Izuku rubbed at the back of his neck absent-mindedly. "I'm confused. Why are you so mad now?" He was a little angry now. Katsuki hadn't cared about Izuku since they were 4 years old. "He left you on a fucking roof, Deku!" "You never cared about me before now!" Izuku's words made Katsuki physically recoil. He turned his face away from Izuku and closed his eyes. He drug both of his hands through his hair, tugging at it until his knuckles turned white. "You're wrong." His voice was just above a whisper. "That's what I wanted you to think, but it was never true." "What?" "When we were in elementary school, I was so focused on gaining popularity, I wanted everyone to love me, even if that meant losing you." Katsuki turned his head back to Izuku, pulling in a deep breath before bringing his own eyes to meet Izuku's. "By the time we got to middle school, you still hadn't left. You were still trying to be my friend. And for so long, I thought that you just thought that you were better than me, even without a quirk, and that made me so angry, but then..." He let out a humorless laugh. "I realized how much I still cared about you. You were so fucking strong even without a quirk. You never cared how much I hurt you. You never gave up. And fuck, if I were you, I don't think I could have done that. I liked you more than I liked anyone else. Because you never gave up. And that's exactly what a hero is supposed to do." Izuku was still confused. "Then why?" He didn't finish his sentence, but he didn't have to. Katsuki knew what he was asking. "Why did you still treat me like shit? Why didn't you just become friends with me again?" "Because..." Katsuki started, ready to finally tell the boy that he had just seen fall to his death the truth. "Because I didn't want you to get hurt. Because I'm going to be the #1 fucking hero one day. And you don't even have a quirk to defend yourself with when you get a giant-ass target painted on your back for being the person that I care about most in this stupid fucking world. And you're so fucking stubborn. You're so set on being a hero without a quirk, and no matter how much I actually love that about you, it's fucking... just so fucking reckless. It's unrealistic. I needed to keep you away from me so I wouldn't care about you any more than I already did. And I needed to get your stubborn ass to stop trying to be a damn hero. I fucking hate myself for constantly trying to wreck your dreams. But someone had to, because you're so fucking stubborn that you'll actually make it. You'll fucking make it, and then one day you'll get killed. And I'm sorry, Izuku. But I would much rather have the regret of killing your dreams on my conscience than fucking killing you because I let you think you could do it." A stream of tears was falling from Katsuki's now bloodshot eyes. His breathing was heavy and broken as he looked at Izuku. Izuku leaned forward with an outstretched hand and wiped at Katsuki's face, trying to clear away the tears that were falling because of him. In one way or another, those tears were for him. He hadn't thought so for years, but Katsuki did actually care for him, in his own strange, twisted way. That much was obvious now. Izuku pulled Katsuki forward, hugging him as his last few tears fell. Izuku and Katsuki had been so wrapped up in each other's words that neither of them had noticed the sound of sirens becoming increasingly louder. The sound of a car door slamming grabbed the attention of both of the boys, and they turned to see a confused paramedic looking down at the two boys and the blood on the concrete and Izuku's hair and clothing. "We had a report of a green-haired kid committing suicide. But you, don't look dead." Katsuki had forced Izuku to go to the hospital, insistent that he could still have brain damage or something. The hospital placed him under a 72-hour psych hold when Katsuki and Izuku had confirmed that he had tried to kill himself. After he got out of the psych hospital, he underwent multiple quirk tests. Apparently, about 0.02% of all people with quirks still had the second joint on their pinky toe, but that, paired with his quirk not manifesting, had led the doctor to the incorrect conclusion that he was quirkless. He had a quirk. This whole time, he had a fucking quirk. Izuku Midoriya had never been in the kind of danger that could kill him before. He had never been hurt enough to have a broken bone once in his life. So how could he have known that his quirk would keep him from fucking dying? How could he have possibly known that he had one of the most valuable quirks a person could have? After the tests, the doctors confirmed that he had a semi-immortality type quirk. Very rare, but possible. His quirk would stop any unnatural thing from killing him, including harmful quirks. It wouldn't stop him from dying from an illness, but a swan dive from 5 stories up? That wouldn't even leave a scratch. His quirk didn't heal anything non-fatal either. If he got a paper cut, he would just have to deal with it like a normal person. But if he got hit by a semi, he would walk away just fine. "We have some good news for you." A nurse had walked in with a big smile on her face and a folder of papers in her arms. The smile on her face could only mean one thing. "I have a quirk?" Izuku sat up excitedly in his hospital bed. The nurse simply nodded with an unreadable smile. She almost looked sad. "Oh, my baby! I'm so happy for you!" Inko exclaimed, having been there to comfort him while he received the results. She didn't want him to go through a second heartbreak alone. Her eyes began to water as she pulled Izuku in for a hug. The nurse went on to explain that his quirk would work faster with each time he was put in a situation that could kill him, and eventually, he should be able to regain consciousness within a second. "The newer the quirk is, the longer it takes to work," she had said quietly. "That's why you reported feeling like you had actually died. Your mind and body were brought just to the edge of death before your quirk activated. While your quirk healed you, you remained unconscious." She paused for a second, seeing Izuku's eyes turn red and slightly glossy. She closed the folder and walked towards the door. "I'll be back later to give you some information on some quirk therapists who specialize in handling delayed quirk development." Izuku burst into tears the moment the door was closed and turned to face his mother and Katsuki, who had refused to leave Izuku's side once he was released from his psych hold. Inko hesitated for a second, before hugging her crying son. She seemed somewhat troubled, as did Katsuki, who stayed in his spot in the corner of the room until Izuku removed one arm from his mother's body and extended it towards Katsuki. "Tch, nerd." Katsuki rolled his eyes and attempted to hide a small smile that had made a home on his face, but immediately left his seat to join the hug. They stayed there for a moment, all holding each other as they all absorbed the new information they had been given about Izuku. "Guess you're not so quirkless anymore, huh?" Bakugo let out a small, humorless laugh that made Izuku smile. "Yeah, I guess not," Izuku responded, wiping his eyes. "And now," Izuku stated, pulling away from the hug, "there's nothing to stop me from becoming a pro-hero." The worried look returned to Inko's face as she listened to her son. The last thing she wanted was for her son to put himself in harm's way every single day, but it was definitely what he wanted, and more than anything, she wanted to see him happy. "You kidding?" Katsuki asked. "Look at the size of you. You gotta start working out in order to be strong enough to be a pro." He poked at Izuku's scrawny arm to make his point. Izuku's eyes trailed his body before meeting Katsuki's own. "Challenge accepted," he said, and Katsuki didn't know how, but he somehow seemed to have more determination in his voice than Katsuki had ever heard from him. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. These last few weeks have been hard. Harder than I had ever expected. But I am adjusting. My birthday is on Friday and I'll be 20. I'm kind of happy I'm leaving my teens behind, but also I wish I could go back and fix some things. This fanfic getting a revival is so nice because I get to improve on what I did. At least, I hope to. I hope you all have a wonderful week. All credits goes to the original creator of this fanfiction, Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notification bell to be notified of when I next upload. There is no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing my sunflowers. Mwah.